I was young, and puberty was really starting to show. I was changing more than I ever had before. I was beginning to resemble my dad more and more. Under different circumstances, that might not have been such a bad thing. My dad left us 3 years ago, just walked out on mom, my sister, and me. No divorce, just an unpaid mortgage left behind. We had no chance of getting everything sorted out because a few months later, he was shot by the police during a drug-related incident in Chicago. So, here I was, growing up to be a younger version of the man who abandoned his family when we needed him most. Mom worked as an assistant to Dr. Z. Wilmer, and my paternal grandfather helped out a little, but we were still struggling. Mom worked extra shifts at a retirement home, but it still wasn't enough. My sister and I did everything at home: cooking, cleaning, repairs, mowing the lawn, even gardening. Let me tell you a bit about us. Mom, Veronica Adams, or Ronnie as most people call her, is 37 and a registered nurse. My sister, Elizabeth, or Misa, is 12, and I'm Roger, or Rue, and I'm 14. I was already 5 feet 9 and weighed 120 pounds, hoping to gain more weight over the summer. I had agreed to work at Maluski's warehouse during the summer, earning money while working out. The plan was for the checks to be in Mom's name. We were going to use my earnings to replace the electric heating in our house with propane or heating oil. Electricity was just too expensive with all the heating and washing we had to do. It was a sunny Saturday during spring break, and I had finished all my chores. So, I hopped on my bike and headed into the woods, with no real destination in mind. The road narrowed and eventually turned from pavement to gravel and then to a dirt path. After riding for nearly 3 hours, I reached a beautiful clearing in the woods, surrounded by pines and birch trees. The place felt like a secret room, tucked away in the forest. At the far end of the clearing stood a large birch with 6 trunks. Beside it, there was a spring that stretched nearly 6 feet across. I bent down to drink from the spring and noticed something sparkling beneath the surface. It was a broken glass bottle. I carefully pulled it out, knowing it could be dangerous for wildlife. The bottom of the bottle was stuck in the mud, and it cut my palm and wrist as I tried to remove it. I went to wash my hands in the spring, but the water had become muddy, so I just wiped the cuts with my left hand, letting a little blood flow to clean them. I sat down on a nearby stump and waited. I could have gone back home to Mom and Misa, but I didn't. Ever since puberty hit and I started looking more like my dad, Mom and Misa had started to distance themselves from me. We used to be close, a team, but now it felt like they were a we and I was just him. I wasn't part of the we anymore, and there was no chance of it getting better. If only I could become a girl, maybe things would be normal again, I thought to myself. I found some yarrow growing nearby and used it to cover my wounds, tying it in place with a handkerchief. I had been hoping to find nettles, the first edible herb of spring, but I wasn't able to harvest them with just one hand. So, I had to sit and wait for the pain to subside and for the yarrow to work its magic before I could head home. As I walked around the clearing, thoughts of Mom, Misa, and our broken family kept coming back. Then, I noticed another sandy clearing behind the pines, filled with grass and snow morels. It seemed a little early for them, but I wasn't about to pass them up. I quickly picked them, filling my plastic bag in no time. We had enough mushrooms for Sunday dinner, and it was just as enjoyable as those dinners from years ago. Mom had a light day at work, only a 3-hour shift at the retirement home, so she was home early. Sis and I prepared baked snow morels with cream sauce, and it turned out delicious. Afterward, we watched some old movies on DVD, and the night felt like a throwback to the days when I still felt like I belonged. I was a far cry from the person I had been a year ago. My face was blotchy, and facial hair was starting to appear. I had to shave twice a week now. My voice was rough, and my body had changed. My limbs were long and thin, my joints knotted, and I felt like an arthropod. I probably could have joined the basketball team, but as a freshman, the coach was waiting for me to develop more. I didn't like how I looked. I had changed into someone I didn't fully recognize, and though my mom and sister saw me, it felt like they were looking at my dad instead. But I wasn't entirely bad. I was tall enough to reach the top shelves and the fridge without needing a ladder. I could see what was up there too. At 9 inches taller than Misa and Mom, I was stronger than before and could handle moving furniture and doing home repairs. The next week passed without incident. It was still spring break, and I didn't have anything planned. I was mostly at home, either reading books or cycling around town. It was Thursday morning when Mom asked me, "Rue, do you remember the spot where we found those mushrooms? Could you go back and get more?" "Yeah, they were great," I replied. "Not just that," Mom said. Monday was the first day of my period. Usually, I get bad cramps for 2 or 3 days, but this time, it was smooth and painless. The only thing different this time were those morels, and I thought maybe. "No problem, Mom," I answered. "I remember where it is. It's a beautiful spot. We should go there together someday." I felt good knowing I could help. After Mom left for work, I set off. Misa was out with her friends, so I didn't need to babysit. I got to the clearing before noon, much faster than last time. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and butterflies danced around the flowers. I had come prepared this time, with plastic bags to collect litter that I had seen before but couldn't carry. I filled 2 large bags with plastic bottles, bags, cans, cardboard, and even diapers and disposable tableware. Then I taped the bags to my bike. After cleaning up the area, I searched for more snow morels. There were a lot more this time, and I quickly filled 2 plastic bags in my backpack. I wondered if these mushrooms might help Misa too. I wasn't sure if she had started her period yet, but it would be soon. Mushrooms were good fresh, so maybe they would be good dried too. When I got home, I cleaned the mushrooms, soaked them for 3 hours, and let them drain. I laid them out on paper towels to dry. I felt like my growth spurt was over, though some changes were still happening. The most surprising change was how my testosterone seemed to balance out. I could now talk to a girl without feeling distracted by her appearance. It was amazing. I no longer focused on the amount of bare skin, but instead admired how girls presented themselves, appreciating their style and personalities. My body had changed too. My voice didn't return to the high pitch it had been, but it settled into a deeper tone. My skin became smoother, and my acne cleared up by mid-May. I had gained some weight, though it wasn't muscle, more of a soft layer. I started working at Maluski's store a few weeks later, and I was hopeful that the muscles would come soon, though I suspected I needed the right exercises or diet to get there. I started working at Maluski's right after school ended. My job was to organize newly arrived hardware and tools on the shelves. Since it wasn't too busy, I started cleaning the shelves and boxes first, and once I finished with that, I began washing the floor. For my cleaning duties, Mr. Maluski paid me $50 in cash every week, on top of my regular paycheck. Mom said I could keep it. Money, after all, is one thing you can never have too much of. I didn't need a lot of it, but I did use some for various things, and I gave part of it to Misa. She was too young to work, but as a girl, she had her own needs. Meanwhile, a new family moved into the neighborhood with 2 girls, Kayla, who was a year older than me, and Laura, who was Misa's age. Misa spent a lot of time with them, as well as with her friends from school. I didn't mind, she was 12, and I wanted her to have a carefree summer. After work, I was home between 3 and 4. The rest of the day, I either made food or, when the weather was nice, spent time in our backyard in a small garden with vegetable beds while Misa cleaned the house. One day, I was weeding and thinning the carrots, bending over the bed, when Misa came home with her friends and the neighbor girls. "Invite your sister to join us," Kayla said. But, Misa started, trailing off. I was confused and a bit stunned. I wanted to join them, but I wasn't sure how to fit in. I also needed to finish working in the garden. By the time I was done, the girls were gone. "What about that cis thing?" I asked Misa. "Why didn't you correct Kayla?" "Have you looked at yourself in the mirror lately?" she replied instead. I was about to say yes, but then I realized I hadn't looked at myself in the mirror for a while. I usually combed my hair in my room, but I didn't feel the need to check myself closely. So, I answered, no, I haven't. But in reality, I was the one who needed the answer. So what's wrong with me? I asked. You have breasts, Misa said, hesitantly. These aren't breasts, they're muscles. I said, gesturing to my chest. Muscles are square, but yours are round like other girls', Misa replied calmly. Your waist is slim, your hips are wide, there's no hair on your face or legs, and your voice sounds like it did 2 years ago. I started touching myself to check for the changes Misa had pointed out. Everything felt the same as always, so I couldn't tell the difference. You're shorter, Misa said, trailing off. No way, that's impossible, I said, and then I turned to face the fridge. I couldn't see what was on top of it, even after standing on tiptoe. Honey, tell me honestly, are you taking anything? Mom asked. No, Mom, I'm not, I replied. Why do you think I need something? Because you've developed an obviously feminine shape, she said. What about, your boy parts? I'm sorry for asking, but I have to. I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure, I told her. Rue, listen, this is serious. A healthy boy feels his parts more than once a day. You have to feel something. Recently, those parts haven't bothered me. Like in the morning. How should I say this? Morning erection? Mom suggested. Yeah. I don't have that anymore. And when I talk to or look at a pretty girl, I don't feel it either. It used to make me feel stupid and out of place, I said. So, you're saying you have no erections at all? Mom asked. Kind of that, I replied. And it's okay with me. You should be touching your parts when you pee, shouldn't you? Well, I noticed almost a year ago that I was splashing when I peed, so now I just sit down, wipe, and, well, my testicles. Sorry, I mean, my... Stop! Mom interrupted. Testicles can't just go inside on their own. When did this happen? It was about a week after we ate the snow morels, I explained. I thought it was part of the magic I asked for, just like how my, erections disappeared. Since it wasn't some kind of puff magic, I thought nothing was wrong. I figured I was just maturing, and everything in my body felt better, like muscle growth. But Misa says these are breasts. Anyway, I didn't think too much about it since everything just felt more comfortable. Stop, please stop, Mom said. What magic? What did you ask for? Well, a year ago, when puberty hit, I felt like I was becoming like Dad. I wasn't part of us anymore. I found that clearing in the woods, and while I was waiting for my blood to stop after I cut myself with a broken bottle, I asked to become a girl. I thought it would help me fit in again and stay with you all. There was no puff, so I figured it was just my body developing, maturing, and getting better. I paused, trying to catch my breath after the sudden rush of words. Mom looked at me with sadness. Do you think I love you less because you're a boy? No. It's just that I've become like Dad, who betrayed us, and I knew you and Misa would notice and feel the same way. Oh honey, I love you no matter what, Mom said, pulling me into a tight hug. And I always will. I felt warmth and emotion flood over me, my eyes welling up with tears. I know, Mom, I reassured her. I just know that moms prefer daughters, while dads prefer sons. I always wanted to be closer to you, and these changes. I'm okay with them. Honestly, no matter what, I feel better. My body isn't embarrassing me anymore, and I don't feel stupid or out of place like I used to. Back to your situation, Mom said. What about your parts that haven't fully developed? I need to know for tomorrow when we go to Dr. Wilmer. He'll ask the same questions. I need to check, I said. I'll be right back. In the bathroom, I lowered my shorts and underwear, staring at what had been my male organ. It wasn't gone or smaller, but it was much shorter, and only the head remained visible. I reported my findings to Mom, and she simply nodded. Mom made all the necessary calls to the doctor and Mr. Maluski, who confirmed that I'd completed 2 months' worth of work in just 3 weeks, so there wouldn't be any issue with me coming in a couple of hours late the next day. The doctor asked us to come an hour before opening to avoid disturbing other appointments. The following day, Dr. Wilmer conducted a thorough examination while Mom took my blood and urine samples. A few days later, we went to the hospital for an MRI, followed by another examination by a different doctor. The next week, we returned to the same hospital, this time with Dr. Wilmer. We waited in a conference room for 2 doctors, Dr. Timothy Ford, who had the MRI results, and Dr. Al Silvestre, who would examine me after. If there were no birth certificate and no notes from Dr. Wilmer about Roger's successful puberty, Dr. Ford began, I'd say the subject, sorry, Roger, is a healthy teenage girl with no signs of masculinity. Based on my evaluation, Roger's puberty is just a little delayed, but still within the normal range for a girl. Her first period should begin in 6 to 8 weeks. Dr. Silvestre spoke next. Roger's residual male organ is actually a sensitive spot, larger than average, but still within normal limits. We have records from Dr. Wilmer showing Roger as a healthy teenage boy just 4 months ago, and the birth certificate lists Roger Rowan Adams as male. A birth certificate should match the true gender. So what can we do about this? Dr. Silvestre continued. First, we can consider this a pathology and use surgery and hormones to restore Roger to his male gender. He paused. Alternatively, we can accept the current gender, but we would need proof to amend the birth certificate. This would be the first documented case of a full sex change in history. If we go this route, there would be no privacy for years, and at the end, everyone involved would likely be labeled liars. Tears welled up in my eyes. The situation felt impossible. There's a third option, Dr. Silvestre said. But we need to know Roger's decision. This will be final. What do you think, honey? Mom asked. I want to keep my current gender, I replied. So you want to be a boy? Dr. Wilmer asked. No. I burst into tears. No, please. I want to be a girl. Are you sure, Rue? Mom asked. Yes, I am, Mommy, please. Okay, Dr. Silvestre said. But we'll need Dr. Wilmer's help. We need his notes about Roger's male puberty to be lost or corrupted somehow, perhaps a virus or something similar. Once that happens, we could argue that the birth certificate's gender assignment, based on the presence of a male organ, isn't definitive. Then we could request a new birth certificate. Mrs. Adams, what name do you call Roger? Dr. Ford asked. Rue. My youngest always called him Rue, because Roger was too complicated. By the way, have you thought about your new name, Ms. Adams? Dr. Wilmer asked, turning to me. Not yet, I said, surprised but pleased that he called me Ms. Adams. Rue sounds like Ruth, Dr. Ford remarked. I don't have a preference, I replied, but Ruth is fine. I'd like to keep your initials, Mom said. Maybe Ruth Lynn Adams? Yes. I like it, I responded, feeling a sense of peace. Another month passed before I finally received the new birth certificate. That same day, my first period started. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't as troubling as seeing my dad in the mirror or feeling my body react when talking to a girl. As a girl, I wasn't afraid to talk to other girls, and over time, I became friends with our neighbors, Kayla and Laura. Kayla and I would be attending the same high school in the neighboring town, while Misa and Laura would go to the same junior high. My appearance had obviously changed. I was at least 6 inches shorter, though still taller than Misa and Mom. My waist had become thinner, while my hips and chest, well, my breasts, had grown wider. My shoe size had also dropped from a men's 11 to a women's 8. I needed an entirely new wardrobe. While I couldn't afford all the frills and variety that Misa had, I decided to embrace a tomboy style. I checked the prices and realized that the money Mr. Maluski had paid me, in addition to my paycheck, would cover the cost of basic underwear, new shoes, jeans, tops, and a coat. This didn't mean I didn't want to be a girly girl like my sister or other girls, I simply couldn't afford it. It's such a hassle having a tomboy sister, Misa said, it's almost like having a brother. I'd love to be like you, but who's going to pay for it? I teased. You're so annoying sometimes, Rue. To her, I was boring, but for me, everything felt like a new world. Even being a tomboy was better than being a boy. There were no external limitations, just the issue of funds. I wasn't sure if I'd be a desirable employee for Mr. Maluski next summer, but I was confident I could work for him cleaning the store every day for $50 a week. My allowance was half of that, so if I took homemade lunch to school, I could save nearly $300 a month. That would be enough for occasional treats for both Misa and me. Someday, I'd be able to buy a dress for myself, and that wasn't just a maybe, it was for real. The place was a clearing, Venus, the clearing, not a lawn or meadow, surrounded by mixed white birch, Chiron, the key to harmony and Venus co-ruler. The birch exclusively represents Chiron's energy, and pine trees, a combination of Uranus enlightenment and Mars protection energies. The clearing was framed by pines and birches on 3 sides, with bushes on the northern side, the moon, representing ancestry. At the far end of the clearing stood a 6-trunk birch, Chiron, and beside it was a wellspring, moon, representing maternity, nearly 6 feet wide, with the spring source near the birch. The spring's bottom was covered in black mud, Venus, symbolizing a beauty bath. The place could not have been made by man, as its parts were of different ages. Birches were 90 years old, pines 150, and the spring 60 years old. It also couldn't have been constructed by elementals, as it carried intellectual meanings. The blood taken was accepted as a sacrifice by the soil, Venus. Behind the trees, mushrooms grew, the energy of Pluto. Pluto always opposes Venus, and in mythology, Venus and Pluto are spouses, while Venus and Mars, Pluto's co-ruler in Aries and Scorpio, are lovers. It was clear that this place, created by Venus, was her manifestation. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.